Hi everyone, welcome to today's video where I continue in the theme of this week of focusing on Torchwood videos and a bit of class as well. And today I thought it makes sense, as it is 10 years pretty much, I'm not sure exactly when this is going out, but about 10 years since this episode aired, the very first episode of Torchwood Everything Changes. So I thought I would review it for you, so here you go. Now in this video I'm kind of gonna look at it sort of retrospectively and look how it did a good job of setting up the show for the future and all the different things that were introduced and just the way that it was all developed as a story. I personally think brilliantly to really introduce the show so perfectly. Now one of the key things with Torchwood was initially, I think for Russell, was to try and make it very clear straight away this is not Doctor Who. It was just, it's sort of in the first few scenes where it's all set at night, all very dark, there's a body lying on the floor, blood and gore, and then being resurrected back to life, all this stuff, bit of swearing as well, and sort of adult jokes. It's all just kind of like he's spelling out, this is not Doctor Who, this is not for kids, which I think works fairly well at this point. When you get to the second episode, which I'm not going to talk too much about, it stops working with sex gas is not the greatest idea Russell's ever come up with, or was it Chris Chibnall actually? That's probably even worse, that it's future Doctor Who writer, but we'll ignore that. That didn't work. But for this first episode, certainly this initial bit, this first sort of opening scene with all this resurrecting someone from the dead for a couple of minutes, is all very much a darker theme to anything we've seen in Doctor Who before. And initially touching on one of the main themes of all of Torchwood, which is where this guy who's just died and being brought back for 2 minutes is asked, what did you see when you died? And he just says nothing, it was just darkness. Which is very much a theme of Torchwood and something that I'll talk about in my other videos as well. So now of course to try and make this a sort of easier way in for the audience, with the way Russell did it, was introducing the character of Gwen Cooper, who at the time is just a fairly normal police officer. Yeah, she's a decent sort of PC Cooper. She's fairly decent in the police, but she's just a kind of a normal person. Has a boyfriend, has her own friends and stuff, and just goes out and does stuff, and is a fairly normal, average kind of person who just sort of ends up noticing Torchwood and taking an interest. And then Russell works it so perfectly, using her as kind of our eyes to bring us into Torchwood, opening up all these new mysterious things to going on with Torchwood. What is Torchwood? Who's Captain Jack? Who's all this sort of thing? And just introducing it all through her eyes as us. We're kind of her in this episode, looking in, trying to investigate, find out what Torchwood really is. I think that all works absolutely perfectly developed around to really introduce you to a show properly. And it does very much feel like in this episode that Torchwood is a very mysterious organisation, something that is meant to be very secretive and that no one knows about, even though everybody in Cardiff eventually seems to know about it. But that's not important. So it is all painted out as this secretive organisation where the people, all the sort of Jack and co, will just disappear and he doesn't exist and all this kind of thing. It's all very secretive. And so I think that works very well, sort of trying to let us in on the kind of secrets of what is Torchwood or what is all this alien stuff that's going on. I think that works really, really well. Of course, this episode also introduces the Weevils, or a Weevil, one of the kind of the iconic, guess the iconic Torchwood alien monster kind of thing, because it was the one created purely for Torchwood. It was never used, as far as I know, in anything else, Doctor Who or Serial Images or anything. It was purely used in Torchwood, and it's quite a nice sort of rat, I guess, like creature that sort of lives in the sewers and devours people. Quite nice that Torchwood will sort of try and control, and I like the idea of the Weevils. They're quite sort of funny and a good idea and just very interesting. And then obviously you get the first scene where again we're saying this isn't Doctor Who, because the Weevil suddenly just lashes out of this guy's neck and we see blood spurting out of his neck, and it's kind of like this is post-Watershed show, guys, don't watch it. Don't watch it if you're a kid, kind of thing again. But it all works. And so looking through the episode, after we've spent sort of 15-20 minutes of Gwen going around in circles, following random sightings of Captain Jack around, eventually she works out how to get into the hub, obviously with the pizza. Good job, Owen, for using the name Torchwood for your pizza deliveries. I mean, that's how to do it if you want to keep your organisation secretive. Good job, but then of course we get Gwen in there and suddenly we all realise that actually they've just been messing around with her kind of thing and following her around for hours and everything. And it straight away makes Torchwood much more light-hearted than initially. They're all this serious, mysterious, secretive organisation, and then suddenly they're all having a laugh and a joke about Gwen. It immediately sort of helps make the tone a bit lighter, I think, and a bit more enjoyable, and sort of makes it clear that they're not all these serious sort of unit-style people. They're much more kind of rogue, bit of funny, bit of comedy style people, but with a serious side as well, and I think that works really well. We get introduced to all the Torchwood team, or the Torchwood team as it was there, with Jack, Owen, Gwen, not Gwen, Yanto, Tosh, and what's her name? Susie Costello, who, as far as I know, they did quite a good bit of marketing back when the show was initially airing in 2006, all those 10 years ago, that apparently they did that all the promotional stuff showed Susie as part of the Torchwood team, like she was the second in command, as we learn in this episode, and it was very much marketed as she's going to be one of the 5 main characters throughout this whole series. And Gwen, I don't know where quite Gwen fitted into that. Obviously, I didn't watch the show when it aired. I must admit, I was 8, and my parents very much no. So it was several years after that, but I sort of read lots of stuff about Torchwood in general, and I'm fairly sure I picked up this little tidbit of information that they kind of threw a blind eye to everybody by suddenly killing off one of what everybody thought was going to be the main characters in the first episode, which is always a sort of interesting idea to do, I think. So something worth talking about in this is the direction of this episode, which I think is really good, with some slightly random moments. I mean, these shots of sort of, as they bring, there's lots of great shots of Cardiff, and the shots of bringing Gwen into Torchwood and then showing off the Torchwood hub, that's all directed brilliantly. But then you do get the slightly random cuts. There's the consistent aerial shots of Cardiff, which kind of seem to feature through most of Torchwood series 1 and 2. Just load, like every sort of establishing shot between scenes is a massive high up helicopter shot of Cardiff, because why not, I guess. And then the even more random moments where you suddenly cut to a long shot of Jack standing on top of a building, which kind of makes absolutely no sense. But when you kind of just watch, suddenly just see Jack standing on the edge of this kind of edge of some building, just randomly standing there staring out seriously. It's quite a funny moment, I think, to see. Just, I mean, how does he get up there? Does he climb up on top of buildings, just stand there and stare out sort of mysteriously what is going on, kind of thing? I'm not sure. It's just a bit of fun. It's probably not great direction or anything like that, but it's just funny. I'm fairly sure, this might be wrong, but I think Russell had said before that they were kind of like trying to mock American crime dramas, at least with the aerial shots of Cardiff, because apparently they use those loads, and like aerial shots of New York and these kind of places, Miami. And I think that Russell said that that's kind of why they did that. I'm not so sure about the shots of Jack on top of buildings, and then Gwen at the end as well, on top of the Millennium Centre, I think it is. They're both just randomly standing in the middle of it, which makes absolutely no sense. But whatever. It's Torchwood, who cares? So yeah, let me know if you know any more on that, but I'm fairly sure that's what it was. Now obviously the kind of actual plot line of this is sort of a bit all over the place. It's an interesting plot, but that's kind of not the main focus. It's very much introducing Torchwood is kind of the focus of this episode, which is absolutely fair enough to me. But it's still quite an interesting storyline with Susie involved with all these murders and stuff, and the glove and everything around that Susie's got this glove, she's kind of got too much power from it, she's gone out and killed people, and she knows she's going to be kicked out of Torchwood, so she's got to kill Gwen, and then she does kill Jack, but I'll come to that in a second. So it's a fairly simple plot in that sort of part of it, but it works very well. And then you've got all the stuff about Gwen trying to remember what she's found out about Torchwood, and the retcon gets introduced in the first episode, another top Torchwood sort of thing, item, whatever you want to call it, along with the glove and all these different things. It's just that's Torchwood kind of thing. And so all those scenes with Gwen trying to remember and forgetting and everything, and then all this stuff of her trying to remember again, breaking through the amnesia pill because she's quite strong apparently, that she's able to sort of recreate the image of this massive sword thing that's been stabbing people, is all quite good. And then so we get towards this final scene, these final few scenes with Susie and Gwen. Susie's pointing a gun at Gwen, and it's all looking like pretty disastrous. Surely she's going to kill Gwen, but surely she can't. Oh no, what's going to happen? I don't know. And then suddenly Jack appears up from the side in the invisible, not so visible elevator thing, and he gets his head, a bullet into his head, blown to pieces pretty much. And this is where obviously we immediately, I don't know, I personally have no idea whether this was publicised as a thing before the show. I'd imagine it was impossible to keep it secret that Jack's suddenly immortal and can't die. It'd be quite nice if they did keep it secret, but I have no idea. Maybe you can let me know. Please do, I'd love to know these sort of things. Just sort of things pre-show marketing kind of things that we didn't know, that whether we knew them or not, because I wasn't there at the time to see, like stuff with Class. Now I know that we all know the Doctor's going to be in the first episode, but maybe if you look at Class in 10 years time from someone younger, they're not going to know whether the Doctor was in it or not, so it wasn't going to be in it. So let me know those sort of things if you knew Jack was going to be immortal. But if not, it perfectly introduces this sort of shocking revelation that suddenly, when it seems like Gwen's about to get shot in the head as well, Jack appears back up from behind his head. The bullet wound in his head suddenly sort of comes back together, and we realise that Jack can't die, and he explains it to Gwen. And then Susie goes and blows her head off because she's kind of like, he can't die, that's it, I give up, whatever. You can't kill him, that's it, bye. Although then we kind of find out that 8 episodes later it's all planned and complicated and stuff, so... But I'm not really going to get into that today. I mean, I might somewhere about the whole Susie storyline if they keep killing Susie and whatever, but that's probably for another video, so I'll leave it at that. So a couple of other just interesting points. We kind of see that all the other members of the Torchwood team aren't all perfect, kind of proper members of the team when they're not allowed to take stuff out of the hub, and then they're going and taking stuff for their own personal use and kind of thing. So it sort of shows that that Torchwood isn't this perfect organised organisation. That's terrible English. That kind of is all very serious and nothing. They never do anything dodgy or wrong or anything like that. But it sort of shows that these are kind of slightly more normal people, like Owen trying to get the girls by using this magic spray kind of thing, and Tosh the bookworm using some sort of alien book reading thing to sort of scan and copy a book in 2 seconds or something. I'm not quite sure exactly what it was, but something like that. And it's sort of helping to reflect their personalities as well initially, kind of just making it clear what type of characters they are and everything. And just works well to show that they're not that too serious an organisation, which is not what you want for someone like something like that, I don't think. And of course you've got Yanto, the Seki, kind of just standing around, not really doing too much in it. I mean, the first 4 episodes he does nothing until Cyberwoman. He doesn't really do much, just sort of stands around and lets people into the hub, and that's about it really. But that's fine, he kind of develops into a much more interesting character, but initially he's just the Seki, yeah, who Jack seems to quite like, but we're not quite sure why yet, so there you go. And so finally we see the mortuary, I think the word is, where they dump or put away Susie's body to kind of finish off her story for now, for the next 7 episodes. And then we get the stuff, Jack and Gwen's final sort of conversation about I'm immortal, wow, oh my days, this is amazing, kind of thing. And then Gwen gets to join Torchwood. I mean, she's like, instantly says yes, she could not say no to this kind of thing, so it shows sort of how an amazing thing it is to be able to fight aliens, I guess. Even though it's not actually an alien threat in this episode, is it? There isn't actually, there's the Weevil, but he's not the threat of the episode, it's human design, just with an alien artifact that's actually the sort of villain of this story. So that's interesting, they didn't go straight out with the aliens like they did in Doctor Who, but I guess it's a different kind of show, it's all Earth-based obviously, so that makes it a bit different, and it's just slightly more, I guess, complicated, a complex, more serious storyline. So there you go, it's a top-notch, it really is a brilliant intro to the show. I mean, it does all the elements of bringing the audience through Gwen's eyes into finding out what this Torchwood thing is. We just don't really know what it is. We've got somewhat of an insight in the Series 2 finale, but it's a very different sort of organisation by the time we get down to the actual Torchwood. So then just following Gwen's eyes through it, and kind of the frustration of not being able to find it, and then finding Jack and finding out he's immortal, and just it all works really, really well, I think, to introduce the show. It's kind of how you want to do it if you want to introduce it, and I think it's just a very kind of enjoyable and satisfying episode. One of the ones that I go back to quite often just to watch again because I enjoy it. It's just a sort of one that you can really enjoy, I think. Obviously it's got a bit of a dark and serious ending, but it's just an enjoyable and interesting episode, and a very great way to start the show. And there we have it. That's pretty much it for this review of Torchwood. Everything Changes, the very first ever episode of Torchwood. I'm not quite sure exactly when this is going up. I'm recording this a couple of weeks in advance. Apologies. So somewhere in the next few days, sort of coming up to the 22nd of October. Because obviously Class is launching on the same day as Torchwood 10th anniversary, so that slightly scuppered my plans of doing a Torchwood week. So it's kind of become a Torchwood / Class crossover week, and hopefully I'll have a Class preview video / trailer breakdown video / something video to do with Class very soon as well. Hopefully before the show airs, and then I'll be reviewing Class as well. Plus there might be some other Torchwood videos. I'm not quite sure at the moment, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Do let me know what you thought about Everything Changes as an episode, as a sort of opening to a series and a new show. Let me know if you think it worked really well or whether it wasn't so great. Personally, I think it was one of the highlights of the first series of Torchwood, which is, it's fair to say, is a pretty mixed bag of episode. I mean, episode 2's pretty terrible, as is Cyberwoman, and a few others just are pretty average. There's a few other good ones in there, but generally it's pretty up and down and weak series, the weakest of the first three. But this is one of the highlights, I think, that really got off to a good start. So let me know your thoughts, remember to like the video, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you again very soon for another video. Goodbye.